Welcome to Between State Lines.
Welcome back to Between State Lines, episode 33, take 2. Um, Another week in the simulation, as Steph says. Another week of wondering what in the actual fuck is going on in this world.
I hope that I'm not glitchy this time. But my even people like my mother, who's like, "Oh, I haven't heard of that," is like, "Oh yeah, I think they're gonna get Elon out of there. What is going on?" And I'm like, "He's the president. How do you get the president out of here?"
Did you see Elon on the cover of Time magazine?
No.
He's on the cover and he's behind the Resolute desk, like Trump's desk. It's like a Photoshop picture, but he's on the cover of this week, and I don't know if it's weekly or monthly, but a reporter asked Trump today at the White House, "How do you feel that Time magazine featured Elon behind your desk?" Like worded it that way, and Trump, you could tell he was like aggravated and annoyed, and like got under his skin. I was like, "Fuck yes."
I mean, because we all see it. He's just a puppet.
He's just like just. I mean, it. And I heard that Idaho this week submitted a law or proposed a bill where schools will have daily Bible reading sessions. I mean, they said you can opt out as a parent or a teacher, but the fact that they're actually proposing this is ridiculous.
Yeah. I just, yeah. Why? Why? we don't we don't care about them having the support that kids need to grow up, but here, this
Well,
I can't.
imagine if it was like a Muslim like lawmaker, it'd be shot down right away, or even like a Jewish, like he'd be shot down right away immediately. It wouldn't even be discussed.
Yeah, I have no words for I don't even know how to call it except for it's fuckery. It's just like I have no words. I shouldn't be surprised, and yet somehow still constantly surprised.
Yeah, I don't know. I just it's like every day I wake up, I'm like, what is gonna happen today? Just the fact that I saw this video today, and I don't know if this is intentional or if it was like a miswording of the document, but apparently the Attorney General released a memo last week detailing the resumption of federal executions. And the categories of people that were included in these executions were uh, essentially drug cartels, people who commit capital crimes, and they're not documented. And then it said, and undocumented people who are in America illegally. And they used an Oxford comma. So it was like, it sounded like when you read it, that it was saying that just being in America illegally, quote unquote, could get you executed.
I mean, maybe that's how, because aren't they already sending people to Guantanamo?
Yep.
I thought it started Monday. Yeah. So, really, if they're there, they can just put them under any category, and you have no right to your trial. I mean, they're taking away the power from our elected officials. What say do we really have at this point? Like, it's scary. I full blown ranted to my mother on our way to dinner tonight because I was just like, it's scary living here. You never know what's going to happen next. You don't know when, like, your escape route's going to be cut off. I don't know. I'm in high alert. And it's scary.
Men, get your vasectomies while you can. Like seriously, if you love your significant other or just respect women in general, get your vasectomy if you don't want to have kids, because women are not going to be able to get abortions or any kind of healthcare like that coming up pretty soon. So do your part.
I know, that's so scary to me. I don't know. It's so scary to me. I have like a well check visit, a women's health visit next week, and I'm like, God damn. I thought as a single woman, I wouldn't even have to think about, like, okay, what kind of future implication? I don't know. I just am like, how do I even protect myself at this point?
Yeah, it's getting depressing, but a lot of the healthcare supplies that women get are apparently have 4-year shelf lives. So I'm not sure if it extends to all birth control, but you could stock up. If I mean, obviously you can't get like 4 years worth of birth control, but that'd be
I
lovely.
mean, my doctor used to give me a year's worth at a time and skipping the like off week. So she'd just give me 17 months worth. So maybe that's still a possibility. Maybe they're already taking that away. I don't really know. But I thought, Jesus, this is the first time in my life I don't need any hormones for anything. And looking at the present state, oh yeah, I'm going to need those hormones.
Yeah.
You just never know.
Well, on to better news. To brighten everyone's day here.
Yeah.
I was driving my daughter to school the other day, and I came up with the coolest idea for a new superhero. He or she or they are called spare change, and they travel around constantly carrying a handful of coins, quarters, pennies, dimes, nickels, and they just like and silver dollars, and they just like pelt their enemies with coins. And when they run out, they can use their powers to like summon coins from everyone else's pockets or like cash registers, and like what? Have you seen Elf, right? The movie Elf.
Yes,
So when he's
absolutely.
throwing the snowballs like that, that's how I imagine spare change pelting. And guys, I'm going to trademark this character, so do not dare try to take it at all.
Okay, but I kind of think that Dane Cook or whoever he ripped that joke off of about Oktoberfest might have already come up with this character. He's a little more rough,
What?
but yeah, because okay, it's Dane Cook, where he has a joke about cargo pants in Cargo Pants Day, and he's like, "What do they even have cargo pants for? Like, it's not a sport. Like, they don't even check at the register if I even cargo. Like, he's like, so here's what I do. I got my cargo pants, and then I got a car alarm. Not a car alarm with a car, just a car alarm. And I hold it to my chest really closely. And I fill a 5-gallon jar with change, and I don't stop till I reach the tip top. And then I know cargo pants day is there. And he's like, and then you sound the alarm. It goes, woo, woo, woo. Oh no, you wait for the first homeless person to ask, hey, you got any spare change? And then you set the car alarm off, and it's like, woo, woo, woo. You hit the jackpot. And he's like throwing chairs, and he don't care because he won. He's like, I won. Call the pimp boss. He's like, slow down. I don't have to. It's under $400. And that's how Oktoberfest started. And I am reciting this purely from memory from 20 years ago. So I definitely skip things.
I mean, I was enthralled. You had me hooked there. Unlike your axolotl song last week, which we'll
Oh,
not discuss. You got
yeah.
that in my head, but
Good. Okay. As long as there was one person, my job is done. It's actually not done. It's just begun. But
how is it
yeah,
still not trending though?
it's for particular people. I just want to know what put me on that list. What part was it? Just want to know. Because my boss does have like a giant axolotl. And so every time I walk past her office, like it's like sitting up my size right now. And yeah, every time I walk past, I'm like, there's an axolotl on the pink stairs. Should he even be there? I sent you the one with the people doing the floor.
Yes, you did. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yep.
good, good. That was the one I saw today. And I was like, oh, must send to Holden. He has to know this is part of the process for a very particular set of people like me.
We are in like an Avengers kind of thing where we are a select few people who are on this cool side of TikTok, and um, we should feel privileged because I mean no one else is.
You're welcome. Yes, I remember the first time I saw an axolotl in person. It was wonderful. Just as wonderful as that song. Look it up if you're not on that side of TikTok.
Wait, so you remember the first time you saw an axolotl after the song, or just in general?
In general, they're so cool.
I've actually never seen
They're
one.
just as cute. Oh, when you go on your trip and come to this state, there is the OMSI Science Center. And they have one in one of their rooms that I don't even remember what else was in there, like magnifying glasses and weird little sciencey things. But there's one tank that has an axolotl in it, and I got really excited 'cause I remember that day being like, "How do you pronounce that?" And now I know, forever.
And now we can sing the song to this specific axolotl.
Kind of.
Kind
You've heard it. I can't really sing it on the spot. It's rough, but I love it.
I got on a weird side of TikTok though. So there's two. Well, I guess there's two parts to this. One, I've been shown like random AI videos of like Jesus standing, and he goes in for a hug, and in one video, it's like two cheeseburgers are on a table, and the cheeseburgers turn into someone's head, like, and they turn into a person from this burger, and that video is just Jesus hugging these two burgers that turn into a person. That's it. There's no context behind it, no like reason for it. It's just fucking weird.
That is weird. How did you end up on this side of TikTok? Because I don't understand it, and I don't understand how you didn't push that on to somebody else. Like, how did you not send this to me?
I'm gonna send it to you now that I have
Oh,
axolotl in my head. You are gonna have
good.
the privilege of being on this weird train. And the other weird part,
I've seen one.
you seen what?
I've seen one video like that where it was like a weird AI video. It was like somebody took their AI glasses and went to like a church of Scientology. And they're like, I don't know what's going on. And I was like, I don't think I want to be on this side of TikTok. So I just kept scrolling. But it did look like the inside was like on fire. Like it looked like hell.
um, so the other AI video, I haven't gotten on this side, but I've heard about this side through videos on my side of TikTok. Apparently there are AI minion videos on TikTok, and they're just really weird. Like one is like, I think a minion exploding. I haven't seen the actual videos, but that's what I've heard. And the actual videos are AI versions of actual real like unalivings, like murders that someone like snuff films
What?
that someone uploaded on TikTok using AI, like replace the actual thing. And yeah, I heard of it this week, and I haven't gone digging to look for it, but it's fucking weird that's even a thing that got onto the platform.
It sounds like a hoax. Like, you remember when they were saying that Wayfair was selling people? Um, that's what it sounds like to me. Which I don't even know if that really was a hoax or not, but it did feel like it was a hoax, right?
It was definitely a hoax. My brother fell for it too, my younger brother, and he told me that he sent me this article from like a sketchy ass website. He was like, "Oh, this person's they're naming their furniture on Wayfair after their kidnapped victims," and I was like, "But then, like, wouldn't that make it so obvious when the police come looking? Like, oh, you named this furniture Madison, and Madison's missing, and what a
I know,
coincidence."
but then if that's the truth about random furniture from Wayfair, then like what's going on with Ashley furniture? You just don't name somebody Ashley because Ashley furniture will come collect. I just don't understand. And then like what about like well, I know American Girl's shutting down, but like all of their dolls, or so we just can't name things anymore. Otherwise, you're going to be like implicated that you've been kidnapping, or it correlates with all these people that are missing. Okay, but what about the random deportations or the deportations? But that's not any of the people that have gone missing. That's just don't worry about them.
Don't worry about them. Oh, did you see that they're putting these immigrants in shipping containers to house
It
them?
doesn't surprise it. I have not heard that. It
Yeah.
doesn't surprise me. Um, Especially just hearing like the amount of people at Guantanamo Bay that has been housed in the past versus how many people were shipped on Monday. Like, and how many they're expecting to keep out there. I don't expect good conditions. I already don't know what the conditions were like 4 years ago when this stuff was happening.
I'm worried about Guantanamo. I'm kind of more worried about when they start shipping people off to El Salvador because I feel like Guantanamo is bad, but when I've heard El Salvador is like their prisons are pretty brutal as well. Like,
Why are we shipping people there?
why does anything happen in America? I don't know. This logic makes no sense. Like, what does I just
That
don't
doesn't
get it.
help with the free labor kind of like scheme they've got going on.
And they want to sell. They want to transfer. It kind of is like selling, transport American citizens too who are prisoners. And the crazy thing is, like, they're saying it's only violent people and terrorists, but they introduced a bill last week that would designate Antifa as a terrorist organization. So all you have to do is be accused of being Antifa, probably not even found guilty, just accused, arrest it, and then you're off to Guantanamo or El Salvador.
Yeah, it's like the Great Witch Trials. We're all a witch at this point.
You might as well, you might as well just become a full-fledged witch at this point. We can,
That'd be nice.
but we all agree that once Trump is no longer breathing, we are all going to celebrate and have a party. This is not me wishing anyone would do that to him, but if he did, just on the pooper, just have a heart attack in the most.
I don't know that it would even change anything at this point because I don't even believe that he's the one calling the shots. He's just the puppet.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, but we'll still celebrate nonetheless. We'll be like the Munchkins and Oz.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're going to have to dismantle a lot more. And I don't know that we have a choice. I think it just has to unravel itself. It's really, I don't know. I don't understand. I didn't understand what could fix things before. I definitely don't know what could fix things now.
No. Oh, I know what can fix things. So, an asteroid is coming for the world, and it's supposed to hit us, or maybe hit us in 2032. So I mean, it's fucking 7 years away. But they increased the odds from like 1.2% to like 2 point something. Um, so like if we could go out into space and just like kick the asteroid really hard, like hit it really hard, all of us go into space and just kick it, I would sacrifice my life to kick this thing, head it right for Earth, and maybe enough speed, and just like we'll
Take
add
us all
more.
out.
Yeah, take us all out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably why Musk wants to go to space so bad.
What a loser. What a fucking loser. What a
I just like how people are like, let's deport him. And then they're like, well, South Africa already said that they don't want him. So,
Did you see his brother is apparently just as big a piece of shit as he is?
no, I didn't know that there's more of them. I don't want to believe it.
His brother is married to some billionaire, of course, in Colorado, and they owned a restaurant chain, and they had people, their employees, contribute like $2 a paycheck to like an emergency fund if they ever had to like close down or whatever. So they'd have money to get them through whatever closure. In theory, it sounds good, but when COVID hit the fan and everyone was closing shop and everything, they took the money and ran and said, "No, we're good. We're keeping the money." Like it wasn't even that much money. It was like maybe like $20,000. Like you have
And you
billions
have billions.
and you need 20K. I don't get it.
It doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. Why? Why are we in the bad place? What did we do to deserve this?
Yeah, I think we know why we did this and we're here because you wouldn't take those stickers home, and I probably upset the wrong person with a dad joke or was too mean to someone on Facebook, and they cursed me and put me.
I think it's from squishing the ants and smelling them. I wrote my own future.
the
All I have to say about that.
goddamn ants. Womp womp.
Womp womp.
God, goddamn ants. Those motherfuckers and their chemical smells.
It's so weird. I cannot wait for the day that you're like, holy crap, I did it.
But okay, but like, so every year we have ant problems in our house because it's I'm on the bad place, and so I am at war with these ants from like April until the fall or winter. So I'm constantly like smushing ants with my finger, but no, never once in the entire 2 years I've done this have I thought to stop and smell my finger. But maybe I will now.
Nobody's ever told you this. That's how you find out, is that somebody's done it and they told you about it, and then you get to experience it too. So you're welcome. That's what happened to me. I bestow this on you.
Maybe
Also, somebody at work today did tell me it's probably because the whole spider thing, the putting it in the jar, and then, yeah.
Stephanie. God damn it. I told you
I
that
know.
that
There's a lot of reasons in a bad place.
poor spider come back to bite you. Quite literally.
In a massive way I never could have expected.
He got the last laugh. He or she got the last laugh, and yes. So yeah, an asteroid hopefully comes and hits Earth. But another airplane went missing in Alaska. Another fucking airplane.
We just went missing?
Well, it went missing and then they found it crashed. Um yeah, it was a 10-person aircraft operated by Bering Air, and they were heading to Nome, Alaska, and they apparently had some kind of event on board that caused them to lose elevation rapidly, and around 3:18 p.m. they went missing and then were later found. All 10 were killed.
Wow. Yeah. Flying used to be the safest route. I don't know that transportation is that safe, but also, or is it something to scare us out of flying? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if it was to scare us, they'd probably do like a big airplane, but maybe like all these small ones will kind of.
Well, I think that they're not really necessarily planning the flights going down. They're just taking away whoever it is that makes sure that everything's safe. Like all the regulations and whatnot.
Yeah,
And the people who are in charge of the regulating.
yeah. I have no flights planned anytime soon, but I don't think I'm going to fly for a while because I just do not trust anything in the world right now. So
Yeah. I don't think we're having fun anytime soon, that's for sure.
so I found some creepy facts again. Well, not creepy, kind of weird, odd, mysterious things. To discuss. So, um, It wasn't until 1987 that the American Academy of Pediatrics declared it unethical to operate on newborns without anesthesia. And until recently, the medical community felt it would be dangerous to give infants anesthesia and or believe that infants did not feel pain.
Wait, that's like a recent thing?
Yep, 1987. Up until then, they did not use anesthesia on newborns. And recently, even more recent, they thought that infants didn't feel pain.
That is wild. I know that when my son was born, he needed some sort of, I don't even remember what it was for. It was like a painkiller of some sort. So they gave him sugar water. And me thinking, huh? And they were like, yeah, it helps with pain for infants. I don't know who does this stuff, but I had full faith that they knew what they were talking about. And now I'm like, hmm. So like newborns that have like something huge going on that they have to do an emergency operation, they would not give them painkillers of any sort.
You know, if there are any doctors in our audience, please explain to us what the logic is there.
Please help me understand because, whoa.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either. But it also makes sense because, like, you know, circumcision is so common in America, and they do it at birth usually. So like they don't numb the baby, they don't put him to sleep, they just slice and dice, and like they feel pain, like like the idea that babies don't feel pain because they're babies is ridiculous.
Yeah. I I can't even fathom that. Being so little and helpless and torn from your beautiful, warm, comforting spot to this crazy, cold, dark world where they're like, you don't even feel pain. But like skin to skin is really good for you and breastfeeding is really good for you, but you don't feel pain.
You don't feel pain, and Donald Trump is your president.
Man, that is unfathomable.
Bacteria and viruses can be frozen for millions of years and still be infectious. So all these ice shelves that are melting could, in theory, be emitting or have a virus of some kind or bacteria that hopefully brings about humankind's end.
So like the how they used to say like the bubonic plague is in caves somewhere, or yeah, I believe it. I mean, we wouldn't know anything about it in our current state because we're not researching that kind of stuff.
Uh,
Uh, wouldn't surprise me though. I welcome it.
Unrelated to anything we just talked about, I saw this really funny video on TikTok. It was RFK on a plane, RFK Jr. Let me specify. Um, and he's putting like it looks to me like he's putting um essential oil drops in water. And if I can find the goddamn video, I would read the comments 'cause it's really funny. Oh my god, did I not like it? I thought I liked it. I
How dare you, Holden? And you probably didn't even send it to me.
I did like it. I don't know why it's not showing up. Okay. So, I'm gonna send it to you, but like some of the comments were that it was ink, so the worm in his brain can write its memoir.
Uh, yeah, that guy.
This is to help his voice sound crystal clear. Like I I know it's like a condition, and I feel bad for making. I'm not making fun of the people who have this
Yeah, but
disease.
I
Okay,
it
it's
feels like
him.
it also I just feel like everybody who is part of the inside crowd right now, I feel like they're all on massive amounts of drugs. That's just my theory. I think that was acid. He's like, here for a good time, not a long time.
Someone said prenatal worm vitamins.
The worm's gonna have babies. I don't know. That guy. Like, the fact that he's bringing back the um
Canning drops.
immunization. Wait, what?
Canning drops.
The immunizations cause autism thing that he's bringing back, even though like him and his family are up to date. I don't understand. I don't understand.
What pisses me off is he like constantly and consistently acts like people who have autism have a disease and they need to be cured. Like the fuck? Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. My theory is it is a spectrum, and you likely fall somewhere on that line. If you are completely not on it, then you're the weird one. Sorry.
Autistic people are cool as fuck, so fuck off RFK.
Yeah,
Uh,
fuck off.
if you stifle a sneeze, there is a chance you can damage organs in your head, including your eye blood vessels, rupturing your eardrums, and possibly rupturing a brain aneurysm.
Wow. So, wow, sneezes are more powerful than you think.
I have sneezed so hard that my shoulder like hurts afterwards. It's the worst.
I have very petite sneezes, but everybody in my office has very strong sneezes. So whenever they sneeze and it makes me sneeze, I don't think anybody noticed.
Do you go? Are you like one of those people that goes, achoo, achoo?
Yeah, basically. It feels like an implosion more than outward, but everybody else feels like it's very outward. And I felt like I was like that as a kid, but I was also a snot rocket, and so I had to learn to tone it down.
A snot rocket. Oh
No,
my god.
yes. Now I'm not a snot rocket, but I'm, yeah, I think that I'm close to one of those things. Like, something dangerous is going to happen.
Um, the smell of a freshly cut lawn is actually a chemical distress signal released from the grass as it's cut.
That gets really morbid because I'm a little allergic to that.
Oh,
So I'm allergic to plants suffering.
you.
You wouldn't know that from some of my plants suffering, but yeah.
Um,
But it came in handy when I was a kid because I couldn't mow the lawn.
yeah, you can get out of that. Yeah, make someone else do it.
I mean, I had to do it twice before I could get out of it. And my dad was like, just wear goggles.
Do you like swell
I
up?
tried that. As a kid, yeah, everybody has bad allergies in my family, but for me, mowing the lawn, like I would get like hives. Yeah, it was not good. But my littlest sister doesn't have to mow the lawn or do anything crazy, and she sneezes like 12 times in a row and actually used to get sent home from school for that. That didn't ever happen to me. I was very jealous. I had to throw up in front of everybody to get sent home from school.
I have this one distinct memory from when I was a kid, like first grade, where my friend, we sat in like a four square, like four tables together, and my friend stood up and just like puked on his desk, and of course all the desks are touching, and so I just remember this like river of vomit coming across all of our desks.
Yep. I was that kid. I threw up on the rug that everyone sat at, like, at least twice. One time I remember making it to the bathroom, and I threw up in there, actually in the toilet, but also all over myself, and I was wearing, like, a white dress that day. And I remember I wouldn't leave the bathroom until they called my mom. My parents used to take us out to breakfast, and the change of temperature from eating and then like getting cold from sitting there, I felt really, really awful. And I threw up on the breakfast table one time before they were like, okay, you can go out to the car. And I would go hang out in the car while my family ate breakfast.
My God. Hey, where's Steph?
I
She's
was
in
a
the car
mess.
dying.
Now I turn on music. I was having the best time. Yeah. I'm just so cool not hanging out with them. Yeah.
You got some peace. CNN has had a pre-recorded broadcast from the 90s, which they plan to premiere during the end of the world.
Oh, so in the 90s they saw it coming?
They saw it coming.
Damn.
Damn. And the last really creepy, crazy, wild fact that I had no idea even existed. The Colombian serial killer Pedro Alonso Lopez, who is known as the monster of the Andes, who apparently claims to have raped and murdered. They haven't confirmed the number, but he says over 300 girls from Ecuador, Peru, and Colombia. After he was caught, he was in prison for 18 years, and he was put in a psych hospital afterwards. Was reviewed, declared to be sane, and set free in spite of his blatant declarations that he was going to kill again. And since his release in 1998, nobody's seen him or knows where he is. And that would make him in his 70s at this point. But he's somewhere in South America. Could be dead, could be alive still.
What was his name?
Pedro Alonso Lopez. Yeah. I thought it was fake. I looked it up.
That's
Like, no, it's like 300 to 400 girls he's like claimed credit for. So who knows if he actually did that many, but like, so that's.
But he can just say that and they're like, "Oh, well you're sane,
Yeah, you're
so
fine. No
have
worries.
fun."
And I'm going to do it again. You know what? That's okay. He won't do it again. He's just making it up.
And yeah, not only was it like he killed but you're sane.
Who did he pay
I
off?
don't
Is what I want.
I don't know. Apparently if you do bad things, just say that you do bad things and people will be like, you're sane."
You're staying. You are.
See, the crazy thing is not admitting that you're insane. So I used to tell my mom that. She really hated it.
Do you know that 1 in 100 people are psychopaths?
I believe that. I mean, it's just also like the psychopath, sociopath, like it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell.
We know
Psychopath, sociopath, narcissist, all of those, like,
on the spectrum of some sort.
yeah, their own spectrum.
Yeah,
For
they're
sure.
the murderous danger spectrum.
The the world is the way it is right now because everybody's gonna fall into one of those categories by the end.
You know, I think you're onto something here. I think with everything the way it's going, we're all going to be on that kind of spectrum at some point. Don't worry about
This is the
autism.
bad place.
We're going to be in the psychopath spectrum.
Yeah, no, it's like, how crazy is this world going to drive you?
Yeah.
I can feel already. It's gonna drive me pretty crazy.
And we were only 2 weeks in, so like we have a whole fucking 3.75, not even 3/4, 3.9 years to go.
You know, I didn't start looking like I was older than 12 until the last presidency of Trump. I can't imagine what I'm going to look like at the end of this one.
But positive news, guys. And if you live in Florida and you live in New York, specifically districts that are up for re-election. So because Trump, the dum dum, nominated 3 people who were congressmen or women, and they could no longer be representatives anymore, they had to give their seats up, and their seats are up for special election in the next 60 days. So there's a very good chance that Democrats take those seats and take back the House in just 2 months, which would mean that Trump can't do fucking jack shit for 2 years, at least.
That would be great. I also just didn't know he could do as much as he has been doing in the last 2 weeks. And you saying that it's only been 2 weeks is really putting some perspective here, because it has felt like an eternity already.
It's felt like a year, but it's only been 2 weeks. But I honestly, I think him doing all this shit at the start is actually bad for him, because we've seen what he's doing and are pissed off. And I think it's going to drive a lot of people to vote these elections, assuming it's not rigged, assuming it's not nothing fishy happens. Uh, I think there's a good chance that they take all 3 seats just because people are
Okay.
pissed off enough.
Okay, so you said New York, Florida. What's the third one?
It's 2 seats in Florida and 1 in New York.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
it's dicey, but I think if you're in those states, look up if you're in those districts and vote for the blue people. Don't vote for Republicans.
That's kind of a hard one to ask of Florida.
Florida.
Florida just kind of does whatever Florida does.
Florida, you've let me down every year for the last 10 years. Do the right thing.
I feel like they've let me down since I was a child.
Yeah. But then they went for Obama twice. So they made up for a little a little bit.
Did they make a big difference in that?
No, I mean he won pretty handily regardless in both elections, but
Okay. They were just quiet for a couple of years. That's all. But yeah, no, I feel like they've been letting me down since early 90s, and that's pretty much my whole life.
they've been letting me down my whole life. So for today's episode, I figured we should dive into a topic that we have mentioned a few times. Well, you have. But we'd never really gone into depth on it that much, and it is the insanely high level of missing or murdered Indigenous women in America and Canada. I did not know Canada was included in this issue, but both countries have the same problem.
Yeah.
So before we begin, I want to acknowledge that the exact number of missing or murdered Indigenous women is completely unknown, and it's a lot of factors that play into that. Like FBI has a figure they believe is correct, but funding in those areas and things are unreported. Things are determined to be suicides or accidental deaths, as you'll see in some of these cases, and they're actually murders that just were miscategorized, either intentionally or just due to the lack of desire to even investigate it any further. So it's around 5,000 is a number I've been seeing, but it's probably much, 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 much higher than that.
Yeah, I would believe it, especially with how difficult it is to even be a tribal member. Because with my tribe personally, in the 50s, if you lived on tribal land and tried to work outside of the reservation, you were paid half wages. And so a lot of people either denounced their tribal affiliation or didn't announce that they were, because it wasn't a good thing. Like, I'm actually qualified as half the blood quantum that I am because one of my great grandparents didn't actually go for the tribal roll number or say that they're part of the tribe because it was dangerous. So something like that, I think it's kind of hard to even tell how many out there are native or if they just were undocumented. But my first therapist that I had a few years ago told me that as a Native woman, you, on paper, like it's written into law, you are actually worth less than like cattle. So yeah, so I can see why that would be a lot larger of a number, but not as documented.
Yeah, it's it's a problem. Like you said, it's a bigger issue than people realize, and it's sad, it's depressing, and hopefully it gets better. But I mean, I don't way this country's going ain't gonna get better anytime soon. But like you said, you are considered worth less than a cattle, but which is freaking ridiculous. But some facts that we do know is more than 4 in 5 American Indian and Alaskan natives have experienced violence, and more than 1 in 2 have experienced sexual violence. And the stats are so bad that for Native women like yourself, the third leading cause of death is homicide, which is ridiculous. It's not like any other race or group people. It's your number 3 is murder, which is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, it's a scary world out there, and I know that the um northeastern part of the United States, it almost feels like it's like a black hole where people just go missing. And yeah, the number of times that it's reported or not, like, not really sure if how accurate that is.
So you mentioned the east and northeast, and I found a bunch of cases over there. But there are actually a lot even on the west coast. Like I think some of these are in Nevada and Oregon and Washington. Like one is in Washington. I looked up.
Yeah, I think that that's when I first started, because like I'm Native, but the person in my family that is Native is my dad, and so I wasn't particularly close to my family because I'm not particularly close to my dad, and actually haven't really spoke to him in like many years. But when I started listening to crime podcasts, that's when I first started learning about how many Native women have either just up and vanished, or like it's also hard to get the kind of publicity that you would get if you were any other ethnicity, especially like white women.
Well, remember like
White men.
yeah, white man. Gabby Petito, that woman who went missing and was found murdered. Um,
Yes.
she got so much publicity, and that kind of it shed a light in some ways on like the Native women issue, because like it kind of a lot of people on social media were like, well, if you're giving this much attention to a white woman who's gone missing in these areas, like what about the natives, the black people, the Hispanics that have gone missing that no one even talks about, especially given that you're giving all this media attention to this, as tragic as it was, as awful as it was, to this one person. And I feel like the media, that they do that so much with all these cases. Like they focus on one nationwide case, that like with the the United Healthcare CEO, like all this attention on that one guy who was murdered, who was rich and white. But all these cases of minorities are also in the same areas, missing, murdered. Nothing is done for them on that scale.
Yeah, it's outrageous. Yeah,
Um,
there's something about being a blonde white woman, or really any old white man.
I mean, yes, you're white, you qualify as apparently front of the fucking line for. And well, you know what? Our country's not racist though, Steph. We've moved past racism apparently. Like
Not at all. Not at all.
we've solved the racism problem. It's long gone. Um,
It's not even like just like white privilege, because I guess at one point I was going through and finding that Irish settlers were treated just the same, where they were just seen as a piece of shit. And yeah, we're right there. And so that's they became angry at other races, and there were like two different sub settlers in that. It's our country is just fucked. You got to be part of the 1%, or they're all just pitting you against each other.
Yeah, 100%. So organizations like Native Hope believe that there are a lot of key reasons why this crisis hasn't gotten the attention that it deserves. First and foremost, policies like the Indian Relocation Act, which forced many natives to leave their tribal lands. And because of that, only 22% of natives live on reservations, and many move between tribal and state lands, which creates a lot of problems when it comes to reporting, investigating, and prosecuting crimes. And additionally, a lot of Native Americans in urban areas lack access to resources tied to their culture and community, and many experience poverty, homelessness, and isolation, which makes them a lot more vulnerable to violent acts and unalivings and going missing. And they refer to that as the pipeline of vulnerability that a lot of natives get essentially funneled into.
I believe that, definitely. I mean, we've been fortunate to have a lot of resources, but even thinking back to we only established our tribal government in the 80s. We've only had our casino since the 90s. Like, we've built a lot in this time. And I think that that's also what's like, we're one of the lucky ones because we were actually reinstated. There's a lot of tribes out there that are not even reinstated. So if these native people are not even recognized as tribal, like, yeah, they're even more vulnerable, it feels like.
Also, side note, fuck Andrew Jackson for the Trail of Tears. What a piece of shit. Like, and Trump has a picture of him, not unsurprisingly, a painting of him in the Oval Office, which again does not surprise me in any way.
Was he a ranger?
He might have been.
If so, then yeah, fuck Andrew Jackson, because he's also the one that pushed back the border, because Mexico was further into the United States, but they wanted the Rio, and so they pushed the border back. Yeah, please look it up. I took Chicano Latino studies, but that was a long time ago, and sorry if I pronounced that really terribly. I don't pronounce things correctly, my sister told me.
Yes, he was an early Texas Ranger.
Yeah.
Yeah, so fuck him. Hopefully he's rotting.
Fuck that guy.
Hopefully he's rotting in hell. Fuck you, Andrew Jackson. Go to hell. But first thing I want to say after all this is that when this episode premieres next Friday, Valentine's Day, it is the National Day of Action for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. So there are a lot of marches across the country, and there's a really big one happens in Vancouver, which is serving as the focal point in the fight for justice for these groups of women. And so
Vancouver, Canada?
Yeah, Canada.
Okay.
I know there's Vancouver, Washington, isn't it? Isn't Vancouver, Washington right on the border as well? So it's like
Yeah.
Vancouver, Washington, to Vancouver, Canada. Okay, so
There's a big difference that Vancouver, Canada is a lot more expensive.
and Vancouver, Canada is probably a lot better too. So it's not in Washington.
Probably. Washington's not that bad. Being that close to the border is not that bad. The rest of Washington, fuck Washington.
So I picked a few cases to discuss today, just kind of like go over an overview. Hopefully have someone listen to the podcast that knows something. Never know. Maybe someone will know something and call the FBI. But you will see a pattern as we discuss these. There's a lot of missing details and a lack of urgency from law enforcement and families that are kind of left in the lurch. And the problem I came across is that so many cases, because there's nothing going towards them as far as resources go, there's so little information on them. So it's like one article written by a news station that was copied over 4 times by different websites, and that's all there is. And it's like, fuck, shit, damn. The first person is Pepita Redhair, who went missing on March 24th, 2020. It was March 24th, 2020, when Anita dropped off her 27-year-old daughter, Pepita, at her boyfriend's house just south of Albuquerque. Um, it had been an hour-long drive from Anita's home on the Navajo reservation, but Pepita was eager to return to her longtime boyfriend, Nick. She'd always wanted more than life on the reservation, had big dreams, and worked hard to carve out her own path. She left for Albuquerque as soon as she graduated high school, determined to build a future for herself. In 2016, she met Nick, and within 6 months of knowing him, she moved into his home, which he had lived with his parents at the time. So 2 days after dropping her off, her mom grew concerned that she hadn't heard from her. The two spoke daily, multiple times a day, usually on regular occurrence. And when Anita, the mother, reached out to Nick on March 27th, so 3 days after getting dropped off, his response only heightened her anxiety. He claimed that Pepita had left and he didn't know where she was. Anita called the Albuquerque Police Department, but officers brushed off her concerns and told her that she was an adult and had every right to go off on her own and not answer to anybody. But her mom knew her very well and felt like this was not her daughter. And so, without any help from the police, their family took matters into their own hands, put up flyers, missing posters, and went around asking in the neighborhood to see if anyone had seen her. Um, but as COVID spread at the time, the police refused to conduct in person interviews or actively investigate her case at any time. And then when she turned to the news stations for help, some kind of publicity, they said no. So her sister drove to Nick's house and demanded to talk to her sister or Nick, trying to get anyone to listen. And all she got in return was silence, and no one answered the door. And as their search continued, their fears began to solidify. Pepita had apparently confided in Anita that Nick had been drinking heavily and had become physically violent towards her. Still, despite the troubling history, Nick did not report Pepita missing until April 19th, almost a month after she initially went missing. According to him, they fought, she left on foot, and never returned. And that's the last update from anyone on the case. And it's been more than 4 years later at this point, almost 5 years, and she's still missing, still out there, and no one knows where she is. But if you have any information at all, please give the Bernalillo County District Attorney's Office a call at 505-222-1101.
I can't believe it's been almost 5 years and like Nick never had to be interviewed.
Never.
He reported her missing a month later. That's enraging. It's, yeah, I looked her up so that I could see her, and that is enraging. And Navajo is one of the native countries that doesn't have a lot of the resources, because a lot of like Navajo country doesn't even have electricity or running water.
Jesus.
Like that's, I took anthropology in college and my instructor was native, and she said that my tribe is one of the very lucky ones, because there are, like, she showed us what it looks like to live there, and it is, they do not have the same kind of resources that we do. That is enraging.
And the sad part is, like, I grew up on the East Coast. There were, reservations out there on the East Coast, but um, they never. This was never discussed in schools at all. Like, we did cover like the Trail of Tears and, like, what happened to the natives back in the 1900s and 1800s, but nothing as far as like how the reservations have it in today's world. Like, without, for instance, me researching this stuff or you telling me that they don't have water, I would not have known that. Like, you have to dig for this shit. Like, it should be readily taught how awful these communities have it.
Well, yeah, a lot of it is that our own history is not taught accurately. Like, even the Trail of Tears, moving natives from one land to another, like, you can see the numbers dwindling, but then the numbers of reported people who died along the way are drastically different than the numbers that, like, we started with versus where we ended up. I also was very lucky that in my university experience, one of my instructors, I took Native American flute, is one of the people at the tribe that I work at. He acquires land for the tribe, and so he, like, got to teach us some of our real history, along with, like, songs that the tribe had learned to, like, they had a song for the rabbit, as their tribute to the rabbit, because that kept them alive when their main source of food was buffalo. But the white man came in and said, you can't hunt buffalo anymore. We like the hides for our stuff. Didn't even, like, eat the meat, and that was a main source of nutrition. So then it was like people were dying, like, between sicknesses and not having the right kind of food or being able to sustain. And so having the rabbit to sustain life, like, that was a game changer where people were actually surviving. But all of those numbers are just, it's just crazy to see, like, okay, we started with this and somehow we ended here, but only this many people were reported dead.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, there is just no accurate number, and it's probably way higher, like you mentioned, way higher than we actually learn about in schools, because either people don't care, or probably that, but also, like, records are so hard to come by from that time.
Well, it's
Because
hard to believe you're the greatest country out there with the kind of history that we have. So we teach a very skewed history. And you actually have to pay a lot of money to be able to get access to classes to learn some of this other stuff. Like, I'm thankful for my college experience because I had no idea.
yeah, I mean, like, you don't, unless you like know to look for this stuff. It's like a lot of people are just ignorant, and they just don't do any research, and they just assume that what they were taught growing up is the truth, and it's absolutely far, far from the truth. And the one thing I think they should reinstitute in schools is a deeper um, education on natives, because, like, they barely talk about it in school. So
Yeah, just like a more accurate history in general would be great.
well, and, like, they need to paint our country as the bad man, like, not, oh, we were just doing what we had to do. No, you were awful. Like, you were just a piece of shit, and you did a lot of awful things. Like, you don't have, like, you're not the person. I mean, a lot of people are that way today, but, like, it doesn't make you that person. But if you don't address it and try to rectify it, then yes, you are just as bad as those people, because you're perpetuating the ongoing issue.
Well, even going back to the years, like, that Jackson was the ranger, like, that they're talking about the borders. Like, why are we deporting people, saying that they're here illegally, when technically that was a part of Mexico? Like, we're the ones that pushed the border back because the Rio was good for trade. And so obviously we want that. Yeah, they didn't want us to have that. We just pushed and pushed and just took it. But that's kind of the American way, you know?
That's the good old American dream. Just take what you want. Greenland, got you. Gaza,
Say sorry later.
got you.
Yeah, that is the American way, obviously. I just can't believe we're it's still the American way. Like, somebody teach the 1% a lesson. The rest of us would be happy to join Canada.
Right. um. So the next missing person, missing Indigenous woman, is Olivia Lone Bear, and she went missing on October 27th, 2017. It's about almost 8 years ago at this point. So on October 27th, 2017, the three affiliated tribes police department received a missing persons report for 32-year-old Olivia Carey Lone Bear. The mother of five was last seen 2 days earlier in a borrowed Chevy Silverado in Newtown, North Dakota. Despite initial search efforts, volunteers using sonar discovered a submerged truck in Lake Sacagawea on July 31st, 2017. The vehicle was about 400 feet from shore in 21 feet of water, and Olivia's body was found inside, strapped into the passenger seat. So she was not driving. The truck's windows were broken. Authorities ruled her cause of death, as undetermined, stating there were no signs of trauma, natural causes, or toxic substances. An affidavit revealed Olivia had texted a friend before vanishing, saying that she had attended a bonfire and had gone off roading. However, investigators found no witnesses to confirm this. And a side note, the truck was found only 1.5 miles from her home. The case brought renewed attention to the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women, particularly in the Bakken oil fields, where the rise of the oil industry has been linked to increased violence and trafficking. Federal officials did meet with Olivia's family in 2019 to provide updates, acknowledging frustrations with the slow investigation. Minneapolis FBI Special Agent, the mouthful, Jill Sanborn, assured them that uncovering the truth remains a priority. But to this day, almost 8 years later, no one's been charged or even arrested for her murder. Because obviously it's a murder, because you don't just hop in the passenger seat. And I don't get that. But if you know of anything that happened to her, please call the FBI at convenient number 1-800-CALL-FBI. So I just don't get how you rule, somebody was driving. The car does not go in the water by itself. So how do you rule it?
Especially, yeah, how this far off of land, that deep in water. There's a lot of things I don't understand there. That did remind me that the Dakota Access Pipeline is also one of the things that made me first start looking into missing and missing and endangered Indigenous women. I can't speak English right now. But yeah, I totally forgot about that. And so then I started looking up what happened to it. Because that was a big deal. And yeah, that is the I guess the search for oil and money. It feels like that is the source of everything. We can sweep missing people under the rug as long as we get money.
Yeah, if you want to build a pipeline and someone's in your way, if they don't want to sell, or if you don't want to pay them or whatever, what's the easiest way to get them out of the way? Make them disappear. And because they're native, no one's going to come looking. And those that do
Yeah.
have no. Yeah, that's That just that is awful. Like a mother in general, but like 5 kids now don't have their mom for 8 years, and they know that she's gone, but they don't know what happened to her. Like someone has to know something, even if it could have been an accident. Like they were just off roading, they crashed, the person panicked, got out, but like it's cowardly to not say, hey, this happened. We were messing around. I was drunk or whatever. We crashed and I couldn't get her out, or I didn't want to get her out, whatever. And I panicked and did not tell anyone. But like not giving the family the closure that they deserve is disgusting.
And how can they rule that like there was no implication of how she died when she was in the water for 9 months? That is wild to me. How can you say there was no foul play when she's the passenger in a vehicle? There was no wounds that they could tell, which I just don't understand how you can determine that after 9 months in the water.
Yeah. I mean, also like, they said the window is broken. Is that what I read? Yeah, the truck's windows were broken. So that is a sign that that somebody else was in the car. Again, if like the car does not drive itself into the water, so like if you're not in if you're in the passenger seat, like someone was driving. So police, you done fucked up once again, and
It was just easy to say, nope, I don't see anything worth investigating here. Because it doesn't seem to matter if they're one of these demographics that people don't care about. That is so sad. God, I just can't get over 5 children. And they had to wait 9 months to even find out what happened to her, let alone live these years after knowing, but not knowing exactly. I don't know.
yeah.
That's so depressing.
The next case is Ashley Loring Heavy Runner. In 2017, she was a member of Montana's Blackfeet Nation, and her desire was to spread awareness about the crisis of the missing and murdered Indigenous women. Um, and then she herself disappeared and has not been seen or heard from since. So on June 5th of that year, 2017, she messaged friends on Facebook asking for a ride from her family's ranch to Browning, the only incorporated town on the 1.5 million acre Blackfeet Indian reservation. That night, a video from a party surfaced online showing Ashley, a Blackfeet Community College environmental science student, sitting on a couch talking with her friends. And that was the last known sighting of her. In the following days, Ashley, who was 20 at the time, stopped responding to calls and texts, including when her father was hospitalized with liver failure. As her family searched for answers, they received a tip that a woman had been seen running from a vehicle on a highway the night Ashley disappeared. Following this lead, um, a family friend searched the area and found a ripped sweater and red stained boots. A witness later confirmed Ashley was wearing that sweater before she vanished. Um, the Great Falls Tribune reported that in mid June, Montana had 189 active missing persons cases. Of those, 60, about 32%, involved Indigenous people, even though they make up just 6.7% of the state's population. So as of her last sighting, she has brown hair and brown eyes, is 5'2", and weighs about 90 pounds. And a $50,000 reward is being offered to locate her. And you can submit tips anonymously at 406-215-1543 or to the Salt Lake City FBI at 801-579-1400.
Dang, that hits close to home. Payne Lindsay does Up and Vanish podcast, and season 3 was about Ashley. I did not know about the sweater. That seems, but just never found her. Found the sweater, found her shoes, supposedly. Wow. Wow. Yeah, that hits so close to home. Like, I have friends from my tribe that are Blackfoot, and yeah, that, wow. And Montana, I mean, not that far, but it's just, that's a lot. And I have looked up everybody to, just put a face, and wow, she was fighting the fight for this. And it's so sad that now we're searching for her.
Yeah.
And yeah, with that kind of evidence, like, it doesn't feel like it's going to be great news if we ever do find her, but who knows?
Again, it's just pathetic that people, like, there's an anonymous tip line. I just don't get, and I'm not a psychopath, so I don't know, but like, if you did something, you murdered her, or even you kidnapped her and let her go, and she's just gone missing somewhere else, like, just call the anonymous tip line. Like, I don't get it. They're not gonna find you. Like, just let her family know where she is. It's just disgusting that it's, you know, they just don't. They get off on the family not knowing that where their loved one is. It's just disgusting. It's sickening.
Yeah, I just, I I don't understand why it's not a big deal. Like, why is it just because of somebody's background that they're not as important to find? Like, it's just so easy to sweep under the rug and be like, nope, not going to ask the questions, not do any of the investigating. Because you just look at other cases, like, that are young white females. And I get it that not all of them have a resolution, but like, one that sticks in my mind, like JonBenet Ramsey, like a young white female. There was so much investigating. There's so many theories. There's like so many people involved. But then, like, something like this, it's just, or yeah, it's just so wild to me that it's, nope, we can just forget about some people. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, and it's not like, we're not saying that their case shouldn't be solved either, but like they're they get so much more media time, so much more dedication to their case, and they're taken seriously from the start. It's not like, oh, oh, they're just like, it just ended up in a truck and it's an accidental death. Like, no.
Yeah. Like, yeah, it's not saying that those other cases don't deserve the time. I just wish that everybody had, like, even comparable time and attention. Or, like, why aren't these talked about more? Like, I have only barely heard of this case because I've heard of Up and Vanish. I like Tenderfoot podcasts, so, but I haven't caught up on Up and Vanished enough to even know, like, all of the details of it. Like, I'll be listening now, but yeah, it's just the time, the attention, the resources, any of it.
Yeah, I mean, and you see it like, I believed that when I would first start looking into this stuff, but then it became so prevalent when you have to dig so deep for any kind of information. But if I wanted to look up information on Gabby Petito, it's like there's dozens and dozens and hundreds of articles and like information on that case. But this case or the last case was like, one article and it's spread around 4 different sites, but they all have the same kind of information. It's like, okay, but what was she like? Like, what is the case? Like, what has been done? What evidence is found? Like you said, you didn't even know what the sweater, like, that information should be readily available, but it's like you had to dig and dig and dig.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess the my mind automatically goes to, like, either it's that these people are seen as not important, or this is some sort of, like, is it law enforcement? Is it law enforcement in that area that is just running like rampant, doing whatever they want, and they're untouchable because nobody's going to bat an eye? They're the ones really calling the shots on if this is going to be getting the attention that it deserves. I just I feel like that's where my mind goes to. Like, it's either you're saying that the people in this category do not matter, or there's something bigger that I'm not noticing or that I just don't know the details to. And so, like, what's really going on here?
I think it's like, it's gotta be just ingrained systemic racism because it happens like across the country. It's like, okay, Montana, but also Pennsylvania, but also Vermont. It's like all these areas, like the underlining thing that seems relevant to me is like it's gotta be systemic racism that's like causing these roadblocks for just fucking no reason.
It's, yeah, it does not, no reason. Like, no reason at all. We're just, if you're not in this one small category, you actually don't matter. And really, the small category is like rich. Like, it's not even just this category of white people. I feel like you have to be like top 10%, and it probably is a much smaller group than I'm even picturing in my head.
Yeah, and you have to, like you said, quote unquote, matter to them for them to actually look into it. Or you're, if you're a friend of the police, then I'm sure you'll get preferential treatment. But um,
Yeah, I'd probably have to be a friend of a lot of police, or
yeah, or an FBI.
somebody really important, quote unquote.
um, so the last case, and I had like 10, but we'll just touch on one last one. And I feel like we should do another episode. Um, yeah, it's just so many. I feel like we could cover a lot more. Um, This one is Ashley Aldrich, and she went missing in January of 2020. It's about 5 years ago, a little over 5 years now. So on January 7th, 2020, the nude body of 29-year-old Ashley Aldrich was found in a field on the Omaha Reservation in Nebraska. She had been reported missing days earlier. According to her death certificate, Ashley wandered off and died from hypothermia complicating acute alcohol toxicity, and thus her death was ruled an accident. But her family believes otherwise. They insist that she was a victim of domestic violence and say they had repeatedly called tribal police about her boyfriend's alleged abuse. Despite their concerns, no charges were filed against him, ever. Um, so when her father saw his daughter's body at the funeral home, he noticed several injuries. She had a black eye, her nose was swollen, and there were welts all over her body. Yet, an FBI allegedly told the family there was no evidence of an assault. But Ashley's sister, Alyssa, found the body near where Ashley had lived with her boyfriend. Her back and legs were covered in mud. However, their mother, Tilly, said the same FBI agent later claimed Ashley's feet showed no signs of abrasions or mud. Um, the FBI's Omaha office said that the case is still under investigation, and that's where that case is dropped off. Is it's still under investigation, but not really.
Yeah, it's really telling how hard it is to find any information on her at all.
It's a sad state of the world we live in. Sad all around, awful, bad place, shit place.
Yeah, because her name sounds so familiar. So I was like, oh, maybe I've heard of this. I am having so much trouble even finding a picture of her.
Yeah, and for our audience, there is a great website, and I found these people on, and I'm gonna post a link in the description of the podcast, so you can go there and look them up, all the cases, and I'll send you the link, Steph, later.
Thank
But
you.
there's a ton of cases on there, and they have you know, updates when they get them, and any additional cases. So
Wow. That's heavy. Like, that's a lot.
if this last case, I couldn't find any kind of information on like whether or not like who you could call, but I assume if you called the FBI, you could leave a tip. So if you know anything, um, reach out because her family deserves answers, as do all these families. But if you know something, say something. Don't be a piece of shit.
Yeah, don't be a piece of shit.
That should be on our quote. Don't be a piece of shit.
Yeah, I want to put it up with my womp womp. Don't be a piece of shit.
um,
I just,
yeah.
wow. It's a good day to bring all of my sage in. I'm going to need a sage after this.
Yeah. I know it's a heavier episode than usual, but I think you can agree it's an important issue. Well, I know you can agree it's an important issue.
Absolutely. I remembered that we actually said that we were going to talk about this one on this date, but I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't remember that
I mean,
today's date.
yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
Life is happening.
I was like, oh, yeah. It is the 7th of February, isn't it? It just feels like January was 27 years.
Yeah. So next week is the National Day of Action for to raise awareness, and there's another National Day of Awareness for the murdered and missing Indigenous women in May, I believe. It's like I want to say May 10th or May 5th, one of those 2 days. I'll have to look it up. But um, yeah, raise awareness, guys. Boost is out. There is like Stephanie said, there's that podcast you listen to, Up and Vanished. Another podcast I
Mhm.
found was that actually covered some of these cases is called And Then They Were Gone. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, you heard them. Yeah, so
I've heard of that one. I just love Payne Lindsay's voice, so I've listened to more Up and Vanished. And it's the same, Tenderfoot has Radio Rental, and I love Radio Rental.
Radio Rental is good. I do love that.
Yes, I love my spooky podcast. But yeah, I had to take a big pause from the crime podcast, and I'm like, this is probably why they get really heavy really fast. And you just wish that there was something that you could change about the world, and that can be heavy because it really doesn't feel like we have a lot of say in what's going on right now.
I know. But, if we keep pushing for at the local level for, cases to get visibility, people like us boost stuff on social media and podcasts, maybe at least one of these cases gets some kind of traction because they need it and it's not fair to those families.
Definitely. They deserve to know what happened with their family members, and to have that kind of closure, and hopefully to also stop this happening in the future, running so rampant like it seems like it has been, because these were all like real. They were on the last, like, what, 7-8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is nuts. It's nuts because it sounds like when I hear about it, and I'm probably only hearing about it because of my own exposure with the connections that I've made in the Native community, whether it's my own or people I've met in school and whatnot. Yeah, it feels so far away. Like, oh, this is stuff we're growing past, but no, this is all relatively new. And Native doesn't look like it's always looked. Like, I'm a quarter Native. I don't look that way. I have to work extra hard to feel like I'm Native enough, but that is devastating. It's devastating that it doesn't matter. Like, you are seen as so much less than a person, and you don't deserve that. Nobody deserves that. Actually, I know some pieces of shit that deserve that, but
Donald Trump. We are now on a watch list.
Oh, if we weren't already, we just we're gonna have no podcast if that thing goes through that they can sue anybody just so that they waste a lot of time, effort, and money.
God damn.
We have no podcast episodes. 33 down.
Newt. They own our between state lines. So, yeah, guys, thank you for listening. This is an important episode to have. I think it's good to raise awareness for this stuff. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.